In today's video, I'm gonna cover the Deathblade starter build at level 50. If you are not level 50 yet, make sure you do watch my Deathblade leveling build and also my leveling guide if you are interested in leveling fast. Those videos are only about 4 to 5 minutes each and it will save you a lot of time. In this video though, I will go through Deathblade skills, skill points, engravings, how to play it and much more. The video is focused around a fresh level 50 and tier 1 with low skill points being at 261. In the future I will cover tier 2 and tier 3 with more skill points and also a PvP build. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. With that said though, let's get started with the starter Deathblade PVE build. We will firstly take a look at Deathblade's engravings, and after that we will take a look at the skills and the skill points. I just think it makes a bit more sense to go through the engravings before the skill points. So every subclass have 2 unique engravings, Deathblade's engravings being Search and Remaining Energy. These 2 will define your playstyle and build quite a lot. So before we go through them, I think it's important that you know what an identity skill is. So in the middle of the bottom part of the screen, you have this skill right here. When you press Z, which is the default binding, you will go into your identity skill being Death Trance on Deathblade. If you press it once again, you will do a massive skill attack called Blade Burst. So remaining energy is all about being outside of your identity skill. So you basically pop your identity skill at 2 orbs, use the skill and you get a buff for 30 seconds. While Search engraving is all about staying in that identity skill for as long as possible. Hitting any skills except auto attack and awakening skill will give you stacks, and the max is 20 stacks. Remaining energy is a bit more consistent and easier to play, but if you play Search perfect, it will give you a higher DPS. I will mainly focus on remaining energy in this video though, since that is what I play, but I will give you the information for Search as well. So you either pick remaining energy or Search as your first engraving. For tier 1 content, getting the engraving to rank 1 is enough. Preferably you want to get it to rank 3 at tier 3. But it's still early in the game, so the builds don't have to be perfect yet. So don't go crazy and try to spend all your gold to get the perfect build, because remember, we are only at tier 1 now. Just try to do as good as you can with what you have. Some other early endgame engravings for the Deathblade class are Adrenaline, Supercharge and Master of Ambush. These 3 are not class specific and you can use them on any other class as well. So Adrenaline gives you attack power per skill use, which stacks at 6, and it also gives you a crit chance. Supercharge is really good for remaining energy. It's not as good on Search build, but it's still pretty good. It gives you a faster charging speed and more damage on those skills. And you have a lot of those charge skills on Deathblade, especially if you're playing remaining energy. So definitely really nice to have. Then we also have Master of Ambush that gives you more damage for back attacks, which as a Deathblade you will do almost on all skills. So really good as well. Then we have the more endgame type of engravings. So these engravings gives you a huge positive bonus, but they also come with a big negative effect. Taking Grudge as an example. At level 1 it gives you plus 4% damage, but you take 20% damage. And if you compare it to level 3, it gives you 20% damage instead of 4, but you still take the same 20% damage as you did at level 1. So the negative at level 1 and 3, it's basically the same. So if you're gonna run one of these, you definitely wanna have them at level 3, which is really hard to get this early on. Hence why you don't wanna run this on tier 1, and it's more for endgame. Same thing goes with Cursed Doll and Keen Blunt Weapon. I still think it's worth to mentioning these though, because you will probably hear about them, but as I said, don't run them until tier 3. So for remaining energy, I would try to get that to level 1, and then I personally would go Supercharge and then Adrenaline. You can pick which one you prefer there. I think Adrenaline might be slightly better though in terms of DPS, but I'm kinda a fan of Supercharge. Then after those 2, I would recommend to go Master of Ambush. For Search build, you want to get it to level 1 as well, of course. Then you get either Adrenaline or Ambush. I would prioritize Adrenaline, but after you got Adrenaline and Ambush, then you could definitely add in some Supercharge as well. Whenever you hit tier 3, you can add in Grudge, Cursed Doll and Keen Blunt Weapon as you like. As I said before though, this video is a starter build for Deathblade, and I will have an updated one later on for tier 3. But with that said, I still think it was worth to let you know what's coming. because you will hear a lot of people talk about those engravings for sure. When it comes to runes, cards and gems, I will be skipping those as well, just because it is a starter build and you don't have to worry about that yet. So yeah, just make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss the endgame tier 3 Deathblade PVE build. With that said though, let's check out the skills you want to use for Deathblade and also where you want to put those skill points. So for remaining energy build, you want to go 4 points into Spincutter for open weakness. This is a pretty decent mobility skill, but the main use of it is the debuff, which is really good for you and your team. So you always want to make sure that you do apply it on cooldown. Then we have Dark Axel, which is a really good mobility skill. You can actually jump over the boss with this to reposition yourself. You want to spec Swift Fingers, Tenacity, and finally High Axel for that +4 meter jump. Maelstrom is a buff that will put a tornado around you, so you want to go with Death Orb here. And as soon as you get more points later on, you want to spec this one to level 7. Since you can pick Dark Order, which will be giving you and your team 15% movement speed buff and attack speed buff. But that's when you get 268 total points, which you probably do not have right now, but you will get that later on. Earth Cleaver is another skill that have some okay mobility, but it's primarily used as a counter skill. So when the boss turns blue, for example, you want to use this skill to counter the boss. So make sure you get push here for that extra mobility. Then we have our main damage skills for the Deathblade, which are all charge up skills here. So starting with Soul Absorber. So get Swift Fingers, Fist of Darkness and Half. Blitz Rush is another amazing damage skill. It actually has 3 different stages of charge up, so the more you charge it up, the more damage you do. Go with Vital Point Hit, Charge Enhancement, and finally Shadow Rush. Then the last main damage skill for this being Void Strike. If you can't find the skill, don't worry. You unlock this later in the main story at Vern Castle. It's the same quest that gives you your first awakening skill, so it's pretty hard to miss this one. On this one though, you want to get Orb Control, Fist of Darkness and Dark Explosion. Then lastly for damage, we have Moonlight Sonic, which is our only non-charging DPS skill, so really handy to use when you don't have time to do a charge up. When it comes to awakening skills, we will be using Flash Blink, which also happened to be the first one that you unlock. He got great damage and you can phase through bosses, meaning you go through them, helping you with the repositioning. As I said before, this video is focused mainly around remaining energy, but if you're interested in a search build, you would swap out Moonlight Sonic to Wind Cut, it would spec accordingly like this. It's definitely a little bit different, but not too much different I would say. So you have Wind Cut and Spincutter, which is really good to stack up the search buff since they are multi-hit skills. So that's why you take away Moonlight Sonic for Wind Cut. But that covers the skills. When it comes to stats priorities though, you want to focus on specialization first, since it will boost your identity skill and help with the death orbs for it. Then after that, you want to go crit. Remember though, it's not the end of the world if you don't get what you exactly need for the build. It's just a starter build, so you're not supposed to min-max it yet. I do think it's great to know though what you actually want to go for. When it comes to how to play Deathblade in PvE or like raid, you want to make sure you attack from the back, of course, for the 10% crit buff. Then open up with Spincutter to apply the debuff on boss. You want to make sure you do this on cooldown. Then Maelstrom for tornado buff. And then starting with the real damage skills being Soul Absorber into Blitz Rush, Earth Cleaver, then Void Strike, Moonlight Sonic, and Identity skill at 2 or 3 Death Orbs. Then as soon as you went into the Death Trance, you want to use the Blade Burst Identity skill. Then just repeat this rotation. And of course, a lot of it is going to be situational as well, but it's good to know what the priority order is. For shorter bursts though, it will be Spincutter, Maelstrom, Soul Absorber, Void Strike, and lastly, Moonlight Sonic. But yeah, that covers the Deathblade starter build for PvE. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions or feedback about the format or anything you want me to cover in Lost Ark, please let me know in the comment section below. With that said though, I will catch you guys in the next video or on my Twitch stream.